What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about variables and data types. Now, with my setup today, all my code is going to be on the left side of the screen, and my terminal that's going to show the output is going to be on the right. I'm just using VS Code. We can go into detail about VS Code in a later video. For variables, any variables that you create is going to start with a $sign. So a variable stores data. Think of it as like a bucket, and you can put stuff in it. You can take stuff out, you can add extra stuff to it. So that's what variables basically are. You can add data to it. So there's different types of data, which we'll talk about later, which is, you have strings, you have numbers, which are integers, you have decimal points, which are basically doubles or floats, and then you have true and false, which is booleans. So on line 2 here, we're basically creating a variable called first name. Now, variables have to start with either an underscore or a letter. They cannot start with numbers. They can end with the number. So, first one we'll do is we'll create a variable called first name. We'll make it equal to Tom. So if we run this code, now first name is equal to Tom. So if we were to just run the variable name by itself, it will show you what's inside that variable. As we can see, it's Tom. We'll go ahead and create a last name and then run that variable to see what it's set to, which is amazing. So now we have Tom's amazing. Now, if we were to set first name to something else, it's basically like taking something out of that bucket and putting something else in. It's just going to replace it. So if we do Bob is equal to first name, and then we show the contents of first name now, it's Bob. So now what we can do is we can manipulate this data. So we can add both variables together, which is going to concatenate both strings. Now when you do this, it doesn't add a space because you're not telling it to. So Bob Amazing is all together. Now there's different ways of doing things with scripting. Here, we're going to take the first name, we're going to add a space, and then we're going to add the last name. So if I were to run this code right here, you're going to see it on the side, Bob space amazing. We can take this string and also put it into another variable called full name. So now first name plus space plus last name is going to go into our full name. So if I run that code, and then if we display what's in full name, you'll see Bob Amazing. Another way of concatenating the string with a space in it is if you use double quotes. So if we use these double quotes here, it's the same setup as this here. It's just using double quotes with a space in between them. So if we run this set of code here, and we display the full name, it's the same thing, same output. So there's different ways of doing things. Now, one thing to keep in mind, which we're going to go into next about strings and adding strings to variables, is notice here when I put single quotes around this that the variables are no longer blue. So this is taking the literal text of dollar last name and dollar first name. So if I were to run this in the terminal, it's going to spit out dollar last name, dollar first name. If you ever want to use variables with inside a string, or if you're trying to concatenate strings together with variables, you need to use double quotes, and that basically is how you would add variables into a string. So now it knows to how to handle a variable. So down here at the bottom, obviously if we wrap text with double quotes, that's going to make a string. So it's going to spit the string out to the screen. So we're not storing it in a variable. So getMember is your best friend. So with getMember, what it does is it will tell you what type of object is on the left side of the pipe. So in this case, it's a string. It will also tell you what methods and properties you have. So a method is like an action you can take on an object, which we'll get into in later videos. And the properties are the data you can access on that object. So if I were to run this, it spits out a lot of information, but if we scroll up a little bit, it's going to tell you the type of object this is. And right here it says type name system string. So it's telling you it's a string. And then here is where it gives you all the methods of the different actions you can take on the string, which we'll get into in a later video. And down here, there's a property called length. So you could access that property if you wanted to get the length of the string. Their type of data is an integer, which is just a number, a whole number. So we have 100, and if I pipe that to get member to see what that object is, see right here that it is a system int32. It also has methods but no properties. Another type of data is a float or a double, depending on what language you're in. They're called different things. Python calls them floats. PowerShell shows them as doubles. It's just a decimal point. So any non-whole number. So if I were to run this with the get member, we can see here it's a system double, and it has similar methods to an integer. And the last one is a Boolean. So a Boolean value is either true or false, and you use these a lot with, like, when we get into it later on, like if statements and logical stuff. So if we were just run this, it's built into PowerShell. So $true is built in and $false is built in. So it knows that these are Boolean values. That's all we have for the video today. The next video we'll get more into objects and methods and properties and all that fun stuff. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.